Here, hope you're having a great start to the week. Today's Tuesday, April 14th, and we are working on our articles and working on our outlines, working on our history readings, etc. You've got a newsletter due at the end of this week, so how can you guarantee or at least prepare for getting a really good grade on your newsletter? Well, as I've said in other videos, the number one way to prepare for getting a good grade, prepare for any sort of work of writing and to complete any sort of work of writing is to realize from the get-go that writing is not something, it's not a one and done situation. You don't just finish typing up your article and then say, oh, I'm done. That's like you just started at that point, and that's not to be to overwhelm you, but with writing it's truly a process. It's a craft. That's why we have writing teachers and people who can suggest and make criticisms and make suggestions and comments and help people guide their writing. It's a craft. It's like mathematics. It's similar in that there are right and wrong ways to do things, right? It's similar to mathematics in that, there's an order of operations, so to speak. So what I want to talk with you briefly about today, because I know you have a lot of work to do on your articles, as we talked about last week, we want to get those done, or at least the rough draft done early in the week so I can help with some constructive criticism. But I want to talk about the quote unquote order of operations in writing, the drafting process. So as we discussed in previous videos, a big part of that is planning. Before you even start writing, you need to have a coherent, a concrete idea of what you're trying to accomplish in your article or any kind of writing. So if you're writing a persuasive article, your goal would be to persuade the audience in favor of a certain position. That would be your goal. And if you get to the end of your article or your writing and you did not do that, well, then you didn't have a very good article, did you? So planning, you need to have an idea of here's point A where we are, here's point B where we want to be. Now, what can I do to make us get there as fast as we can and as effectively as possible, okay? After that, you draft. You write the entire article. That's not the end. Then you finally have something to work with, right? Does that make sense? That's like you've written the math problem out on the board. It's there, but it's not solved yet. So after that, as I've said before, it's important to share with other people. And in this situation we're in now in Google Classroom, you're welcome to share your documents with, your fellow students or with your parents and ask them for suggestions and help. But ideally, I want that to be shared with me as early as possible so I can actually help you guys correct it and optimize the grade, okay? After we've shared, we want to evaluate together. So I'm gonna be on your Google Documents this week helping you evaluate what did you do right and wrong. When I say right and wrong, we're talking about spelling, we're talking about grammar, we're talking about run-on sentences, we're talking about paragraph usage, and we're talking about did this writing help you get across your main point, your thesis, your goal? Did it help you do it? If you have anything in your writing that it's not helping get to the point, it's not good writing. And that's what Edgar Allan Poe says, that's what Ernest Hemingway says, and virtually any author you ask, you want to get to the point. If your writing isn't helping you and you've evaluated it with your partner, with your teacher, with your parent, you need to make sure that it's actually serving a purpose. Every sentence and every word should be serving a purpose. After this, you need to get into revising and editing your work. That means changing things, tweaking things, making sure grammar's right, reading your document out loud so you can actually actively find any sort of mistakes that you've made in the text. And you have to keep in mind that as 7th and 8th graders, you guys are getting very close to being in high school, right? You're not going to have someone to coach you through the drafting process when you're assigned an essay. You know what I mean? You need to be implementing these ideas yesterday, okay? Once you finished up your revisions and editing and you realize that this is as perfect as I can make this document, that's when you submit the document. That's when you get the good grade because you put the work in. The bottom line is this. The bottom line is that writing is a multi-step process. It's not just type, finish my document, submit. That's like the first step. Like I said earlier, that's like you've written the math equation, the math problem out on the board. Now you need to solve it. And in our case, we're solving it by editing, evaluating, revising, sharing, and making it the optimal, the best document we can possibly make it, okay? I'll be making some comments on your documents this week, but we need to get grades up, and by getting grades up, the only way to do that is to budget time and to follow